Hi, I'm Meatball Saucy, and here is my V-Pen cab. I often get asked how I do certain things. While there are many great tutorials from the likes of Terry Red, Nailbuster, and Major Frenchie, I sometimes do things a little bit different. This is how I do it. Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of How I Do It. Today we're going to be talking about DMD EXT. No, we're not going to be diving into serum files, we're not going to be talking about PAC, and we're definitely not going to be talking about VNI. We're also not talking about any of the updates or upgrades. This feature is how you create custom styles in DMD EXT for use with the non-colorized ROMs. This includes Pinball FX, FX3, Future Pinball, as well as VPX. So, without further ado, let's dive in. Okay, so the first step in creating your first custom style is to navigate to the vpin main folder and find your DMD device INI. You're going to open that up and we're going to do some editing to the device DMD INI. Make sure you back this up so that if you screw something up, you have got a copy to restore any problems. Let me first start by showing you the bottom of my DMD device INI, and you'll notice that it ends in GIF. I'll show you that a little bit later as we do some edits and some changes and start building out this style. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to scroll down and you're going to be looking to find Legacy Style. Plain square dots without any effects. And everything underneath that comment line you're going to want to copy, including the comment itself. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that, highlight and copy that entire set of text. I'm going to open a notepad. I'm going to now paste Legacy Style into my notepad. Now because Legacy exists, I'm going to want to change the name of this. And because I'm working on Independence Day, I'm going to name it ID4. So I'm going to replace all of the text here, the word legacy, with the word ID4 and replace all. Done, right? Now I'm going to remove that extra text in the comment so it just says Independence Day 4, and I'm going to copy your ID4 and I'm going to copy the text here, minimize that and go back to my device DMD device INI. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of where all of these custom styles are, and I'm going to paste in my new style. So now I have got ID4 style set up for DMD EXT. I'm going to go ahead and save my DMD device INI and close out. Now I'm going to open up Independence Day. And so you'll see now Independence Day has opened up with simple orange coloring and looks pretty basic, right? Most people will say, yes, this is it. I can resize it and save it and do all things that most people are used to. But instead of that, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say Customize Style. This opens up the DMD style browser. And the very most important thing that you want to do when you're editing your style is to make sure you load up the style that you just created. So you'll see now I've got an ID4 style here, and so I'm going to select that and load up ID4. Now any changes I make are going to change that DMD device INI settings information or profile accordingly. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to update to the 128 by 32 pixels or bits on here. And then we can start playing around with what the DMD looks like. You can increase the dot size, decrease the dot size, unround them, make them square, edit this however you like. It's totally up to you how you like it. I prefer to have the higher end rounding. I like the dots a little bit on the larger side with a little bit less space in between them. You can make the dots sharper or less. I kind of like to leave that somewhere in around that area. And now I'm going to come over here, and again, you can do brightness. I tend to leave the brightness alone at 1. The background glow kind of adds a glow to it, but again, that kind of messes with the color a little bit. And you can adjust these to your liking, so feel free to play with that. Gamma correction, you want to leave at 1. That's the default color. But tint amount, you are going to want to increase all the way up to 1. The reason you're going to want to do that is because without any tint, the color doesn't actually change when you set it. So I'm going to set my tint all the way up to 1. Then I'm going to come open the color browser, and you'll see the preview updating in real time. So I'm going to set this to kind of a neon green color. Yeah, I think that kind of looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. So now what's happened is all of these values that I've changed are now updated in the DMD device INI because I've saved the profile appropriately. So now if I want to actually apply this to the running ROM, you'll see I've got a button over here, and I can just click Apply to ID4. Fantastic. So now before we go look back at the DMD device INI and what changes were made, there's a couple of little middle section features here that I wanted to highlight and show off just because they're just neat additional features. So let's look at the frame feature. Now inside of the DMD EXT, you'll notice there are, in the DMD EXT textures frames folder, there are several default frames that come with this particular the particular release. They're all default. They come with DMD EXT. You don't have to do anything special with them. But again, what I wanted to point out is the size of these files, 1074 by 331, and that is totally up to you on how you want to use frames, if you want to use frames, if this is an interesting thing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select the Bally frame, and as the Bally frame loads, you're going to see it get adjusted up here. Great, so now we've loaded a frame image onto our full DMD window. Now, as you can see, because the frame image is there, we've got a little bit of the frame being cut off. So now down here to the bottom is the padding settings. Now, by default, in the interface, this is set to a locked aspects ratio. So if I change these to a smaller size or add additional padding to the DMD window, it's going to add it equally across all 4 sides. Now, I don't want to do that because it looks like I've got a good spacing on the left, good spacing on the right, and a good spacing on the top. It's just the bottom that's cut off. So I'm going to uncheck that box and resize the bottom until it starts to show a gap, set it back, relock it, and save. So now I've got a frame file saved into my background here. And if I want to apply it, again, I just click on the Apply to ID4, and now my DMD window is updated with a frame that covers over the top, and I've now got my window showing appropriately. The other cool feature here is the glass feature. Now, I have already created a glass, but again, these need to be from a resolution size on the file. They need to be JPEG. They should be 2048 by 1024. And usually you want to start with an image that's a little bit darker than others just because it's a little bit helpful. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Independence Day picture that I had downloaded and resized, and I'm going to open that up. And once that opens up, you would normally think, oh, hey, why don't I see a picture here? Well, the reason is because the ambient lighting is set to black by default. And unfortunately, with black lighting, you can't see anything. So we want to change this to a white lighting color. And now we can see a nice image behind subtly in the background. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to apply this to Independence Day 4. And now you can see that I have got my DMD with a background, an overlay frame and colorized images the way that you may want to have them. If you want to remove an image, simply click or simply highlight the text, have it update, reset everything back, resave, and then reapply. And the same goes for the background. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what's happened inside the DMD. So now that I've got this saved, I've got it applied to my Independence Day, I'm going to go ahead and close the style editor. And I'm going to go ahead and close out of Independence Day. Let's take a look now at the DMD device INI, and let's start with the ID4 style that we created at the very beginning. And you'll notice that the gamma is now set to 1. Where we set that, you've now got the path to the glass picture that we left on there. If we had a frame, the frame path would be listed here. The glass color is now set to a white instead of a black. And the tint is where we set the update. The tint color is where we set our green color for our dots. In addition to that, now at the bottom of the DMD device INI, I've now got an entry for the ID4 ROM. The ID4 ROM now has got a virtual style equals ID4. You can have this be manually typed in. You can set this up by simply saving and doing as we applied it using the editor. But if you're not able to enter the image editor, for example, in Pinball FX, it might be a little more challenging to get to that editor. You would need to type in the actual game name. So Pinball FX, FX3, all use the actual game name that is coming out of Steam that you would put in this area, which I believe is like a table _ number. The Future Pinball uses the actual file name of the table as it's loaded, and Virtual Pinball X uses the ROM name. If there is no ROM name, it uses the name of the game that is called out in the script. Well, I hope you found that entertaining and hopefully informative. Before I head out, I wanted to just share a couple of other files. So I mentioned that this has got the ability to do the colorization and creating styles for Future Pinball. This is an example of a Future Pinball table, Metal Slug, and the background and colorization that I used for that particular emulator and table. This is Garfield running in Pinball FX, so you can see the backgrounds and DMD colorization all work in those as well. I do not have an example for Pinball FX3 because I do not use DMD EXT for Pinball FX3. I use the PUP DMD emulation that is standard with Pinup Popper. So, again, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it and it was informative, give it a like. If you'd like to see more, feel free to subscribe, share with your friends, and we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.